Today I'm going to teach you how to pay off your debt the quickest. This stems from a question from Alan Hong. He asked, what's your opinion on velocity banking as a method to pay off debt? Really what Alan was asking is, what was a quicker way to pay off my debt, basically? What's the shortest way what method out there is the quickest to pay off my debt? Well, friend, you came to the right place and you're talking to the right person, because my average student pays off debt 28 months quicker than what they anticipated. The reason they do is because they don't look for things like velocity banking and other short, quick win ways to pay off your debt. They do it the fundamental way, which ends up being quicker than any shortcut that you could take. And so velocity banking, what is velocity banking and how does that relate to the question that we just were, Alan was asking? Velocity banking requires a debt weapon or tool, laughable, such as a line of credit. So hold on. Isn't the point to get out of debt, not to take on more debt? But you're using more debt to pay off your debt? Okay, well, anyways, let's keep going. LLCs work best due to that the money is revolving, as in money can be withdrawn or deposited as long as you don't hit the limit. A good rule is to never utilize above 33%. You withdraw chunks from your debt weapon and apply it towards debts per your plan or timeline. Sounds kind of backwards. How about I show you a better way to do this and how all my students do this and the proper process to take to pay off their debt? Now, I'm going to go through a high-level explanation. I can't go through a detailed example today, but I do have other videos out there that I walk through detailed examples of people's situations. But generally speaking, I'm going to walk you through exactly what to do when you're trying to pay off debt. So I'm going to pull up, first things first, is the exact process that I take everybody through when I talk about my automated financial system. Now, the goal is to make your life or your financial life easy and reach all your financial goals. And so a big piece of this is going to be the debt payoff piece, but you have to know all of the components to make the debt payoff piece come into play. And so I oftentimes get people saying, well, I know how to budget. No, you don't, because I guarantee what I've seen when people tell me that, it never ends up being the same as what we teach. It's always a lot different. Well, I know how to invest. I don't need to do that. I just need to do a piece of this. Okay. Well, why do my students keep getting better results? I keep asking myself that. It's because they have a true automated financial system that all wraps together and actually gets real results. And it gets quicker results than any get-rich-quick thing out there, which is the funny, ironic thing. And it all comes from my national bestseller, The Roadmap to Financial Freedom. Now, I'm going to teach you something today that is going to be life-changing if you apply it, especially when it comes to paying off debt. And this comes from my own system that started 11 years ago. 11 years ago, my wife and I had $304,000 of debt, and we were able to pay off $304,000 of debt. That was $228,000 of a mortgage and $76,000 of a non-mortgage debt. If you want to learn why we paid off our mortgage early, back in 2021, which was the best decision of our lives, click in the right-hand corner and you guys can see exactly why we did that. Anyways, this system, bringing it all together and understanding it fully and applying it, is going to really fast-track your debt payoff. Alan, what you need first is a balance sheet. A balance sheet's super simple, guys. A balance sheet is, the purpose of this is to calculate your net worth. You're taking all of your asset values, the values at right now, this given point in time, or at a given point in time, and you're subtracting out the liability values at a given point in time. So you do this at usually every quarter. Let's say March 31st, June 30th, September 30th, December 31st is the best practice. And all this is updating and showing your net worth projection through 4 times per year, essentially, every 3 months. And what happens from that is that you list out all of your assets and all your liabilities. And all of your liabilities are your debts. Those are the big car that you owe, the big house that you owe, the big student loan that you owe, the credit card, whatever the case is. All of the debts that you piled up. And those all have values on that balance sheet. The reason I have these red arrows all over the place is because all of these relate to each other, and I'll show you how they kind of tie in together. But if I don't know what my debts are, and believe me when I say this, a lot of people don't know all of their debts, or they forget about little debts here and there, or a credit card there, or a medical bill there, and they just don't have a comprehensive picture of what actually is going on in their situation. And the reason they fail is because they're not complete and accurate. And so the easiest document out there is a balance sheet. It's an organization tool to basically show you where everything is in your financial life. Very easy document, very simple, very to the point, but needed. Now, once I have my balance sheet, all of my liabilities right here, all my big liabilities I want to pay off, all my debts. This isn't a car payment. This is the car liability, the $25,000 total debt that you took on, not the $560 car payment per month. That goes on the budget. We'll talk about in a second. That's an expense. The actual total liability and the APR that came with that and the term that came with that and everything, all the details of that debt, that is what's sitting on your balance sheet. Now, what I need to do is go over to this amortization schedule, which is basically to calculate your debt payoff timeline. Like I said, my average student pays off debt 28 months earlier because they have cool tools like this that actually work, that show them the accurate picture. And as you see right up here in the very top, the loan data is where you're entering all that information. So your current loan amount, your loan term, your annual interest rate, your minimum monthly payment, and then anything extra that you'll be paying. This extra box is very important. And then you show your progress along the way. It's going to calculate your principal, your interest, if you make any additional principal payments, your balance at any given month, and it's going to be to the penny. Again, all of this is automated for you. All you got to do is enter a few little things in and boom, it shoots your answer out for you. You're updating this one time. So once this is updated, it's pretty much good to go. Now, if I don't have this, I don't know how much interest I'm paying, how much principal I'm paying, and how long this debt's going to be paid off in. Every time somebody comes to me, they always say, well, I just don't think I'm ever going to pay this debt off. It's because you don't have this. This should easily tell you your answer. There is no emotional answer to paying off your debt. There's a very logical answer to paying off your debt. Whether it takes 10 years, whether it takes 3 years, it doesn't matter. There's an answer nonetheless. Now, how do I actually get this debt to move in a fast way? That is where the budget comes into play. Now, the goal of the budget, obviously, as we talked about, is to calculate your cash flow and not just say, oh, well, here's my income, here's my expenses. Way wrong. And the reason why people fail is because there's a lot more to the puzzle. So if I zoom in on this a little bit more, and you can see the components of the budget over here, which is a zero-based budget, meaning all of my income has to go somewhere. Expenses, savings, investments, somewhere in my financial picture. And so my fixed income, pretty much everyone knows what that is, their take-home pay, plus my variable income, you drive for Uber on the side, any side hustles type deals. You subtract out all of your income from, you do your fixed and variable expenses, which a lot of people don't do their variable. They just keep their fixed expenses like their groceries and their car payment, and they forget about all of the things that are actually driving their financial picture, all of the other stuff, minus your one-time expenses. Most people don't count for that until it happens and then they get blown up. Weddings, cars, things like that. Minus your savings and investments. Now, before I subtract out my savings and investments, I'm going to get a free cash flow number, my income minus my expenses. My income minus my expenses is going to give me an answer. It's going to give me a number. Let's say that's $2,000 a month. That means if I automate that financial picture above, the income and expenses, and everything else stays the same, that means I have $2,000 every single month to pay extra to my debt or extra to whatever I'm trying to do. Maybe it's investing. Maybe it's a different goal. But I'm able to move at a quicker rate because I know my true free cash flow. That is step number one. If I know my true free cash flow and I have all of these three documents working in rotation so that my budget, my cash flow, my $2,000 I got from this answer on this budget goes up to paying off my debts on the balance sheet or goes up to paying and investing in my Roth IRA on my balance sheet, because that's also here. Obviously, all your assets minus your liabilities. Once I know all that cash flow is going up there, let's say it's a debt payoff. Well, it's also going here because my $2,000 extra per month that's going to this debt payoff is going to speed this debt payoff timeline up in a massive way. And again, there's no guessing because it's all directly right here. So if I put $2,000 in this box, it's going to show me the timeline shrinkage below. Let's say, for example, it was like a 10-year debt. An extra $2,000 takes it down to 2 years, sheds 8 years of time. That happens all the time. This stuff happens all the time. But then you ask yourself, okay, now I got my answer. How do I make this actually happen? Automation. And so when I automate the entire picture from start to finish, I automate my debt payoff. The $2,000, I go into my student loan portal, for example, and I set an automation to $2,000 every single month to automatically come out. I automate my fixed expenses. My income, for the most part, is automated. I know my variable expenses. All of my debt payments, my investments are automated, and my expenses are automated. When I automate that entire picture, all you are is looking at something on the screen and seeing the timeline of that, and it's going to play out assuming you don't touch anything. And so once I build the automation, once I build all these financial statements and I see how they all kind of go together, and I create the plan I want to create based on my framework down here, which is I talk about all the time, my Budgetdog financial framework, my 8-step process to this entire thing that all my students walk through. Once you have all of this down, now it's turning the automation on and leaving the system alone. Because if you mess with the system, you're going to tinker with things and the plan's not going to play out like you need it. But it's very clear cut as to how long this is going to take. If you add any extra income along the way or extra free cash flow to the situation, you know you can adjust it in the financial statements. But generally speaking, you don't have to make any adjustments after this is done. And so the reason my students get so quick of results and also long-term results that compound with time is because they set the foundation. They set the basics in motion, which are the most important piece of this entire thing. Now, when you are actually going about this, we'll walk through each one of these tools in a second, generally speaking. You need a cash flow goal template. And so when you think about the 3 financial statements we just talked about, you also got to think of goal setting worksheets. And so I need to understand what my goals are. And so the very first thing I do is obviously calculate my free cash flow we talked about on the budget. Let's just say, for example, that's $2,870 in this example. I need to go down this list and list all of my actual goals out there I want to accomplish. Doesn't matter how big, how small. What are your financial goals? List those 1 through 10. If you have 10 goals. If you don't, obviously don't. Now, once you have your goals set out, now I want to rearrange those in order of priority or value. So value stack your goals in order. Let's just say my rental property comes first, my car sinking fund comes second, and my retirement, because I know I'm going to do that with time, is kind of my last goal. It's very simple to get to the actual answer of how much goes into each of these accounts. And I'm going to skip through these parts a little bit, but we're going to define what the holding account for the goal is, the total dollar amount needed, the number of months needed until that date. That just breaks it down in years, column E. The investment return assumptions that you're going to be using if you have an investing specific assumption, the beginning balance of any account that you're doing, and then what that turns into is your monthly cash flow to meet your goal. And so if you can get to this answer specifically, there is no guessing. I know specifically if I invest $322 a month into a taxable brokerage for a rental property, and I need $25,000, it's going to take me exactly 65 months, assuming an 8% return, and that's my answer. And so what I need to do is go into my budget, list this as one of those items, go into my taxable brokerage, set up an automatic contribution and investment of $322 into that account. That's all. Now, once I set that, now I know it's going to take five years or so to do so. So I just sit there and let it happen, let it happen, let it happen. Same thing with 643 for my car sinking fund into a high yield savings account, and then also my $1,600 into my Roth IRA or 401k. So the question was, though, how to pay off your debt quick enough, right? And so once I list all these, and let's assume your debt's the top of the list, Alan, and you're trying to figure out how to pay this debt off. Well, I can decide because I know this is what I have to work with outside of my minimum payment. So my minimum payment, let's just say example, we'll go to an example in a second, but I have extra $2,870. So do I want to pay off this debt really quick, or do I want to pay off this debt within 5 years opposed to 10 years? Do I want to pay this off tomorrow if I can? Let's talk about it. So the next piece of the puzzle is actually going into the financial statements we high level referred to. And you can see the balance sheet. The balance sheet's very direct. But let's just say down here, we have a $50,000 student loan, okay? So our $50,000 student loan sitting here, it shows us we have a negative $50,000 net worth, obviously at the moment, because we have no assets or other liabilities. And I know from my budget document that we just talked about, I know for a fact that I have $2,870 extra right down here. So if I were to just make some numbers up, let's say $10,000, and this is all automated, so you don't have to actually update this when you actually use it. But let's just say you have $7,000, and then you have $130. Okay. So you have $2,870 extra free cash flow. That can go to your savings and investments or debt payoff in this box. And ultimately what we want to do is apply that. So this is a zero-based budget. That's the goal behind this entire process. So of my $10,000 income, $7,000 goes to expenses, $130 goes to one-time expenses, and then the rest, or $2,870, goes to my savings investments. Now, I know I can use that $2,870 for all of my goals, but the whole point of this is my debt payoff. So my next document is my amortization tool. And so I want to go into my amortization tool and actually outline this debt. And so let's look at the example we have in here. So right now we have a $50,000 loan, our student loan. There's a 10-year period, so 120 periods and months right here. And if you go to the very bottom, this basically goes to zero out by month 120, essentially, very close, $96, right? So in 10 years, I'm paid off entirely. This debt's done. Assuming I'm paying a $534 minimum payment, that's part of my budget, my expenses I've already listed over my budget over here. So that's part of the $7,000. All else being there, I still have $2,870 extra to mess with. I've went through my cash flow goal template. I've decided the debt payoffs at the very top, Alan. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do I really, really pay this off quick? Well, the tool is in front of you, and now the tool makes it really easy. So I have a 5% debt. It's going to take 10 years. The quickest, easiest way to do this, and you guys can decide when you have debt payoff versus investing goals and all these kind of things, and maybe savings goals and all this stuff, of how to distribute that extra $2,870 in the best way possible. And there's a framework that all my students use to make that decision. I can't tell you that framework right here, right now. That's a whole nother video. That's an hour-long conversation of how to come to the conclusion of where to distribute your money. However, let's just say, for example, I went through that brainstorming exercise, that framework we operate out of as a Budgetdog Academy student. And if you're looking to upgrade your financial life and you really want to take this next level, just go down in the show notes below and apply to talk to my team. So you can apply to talk to my team. You have to make over $100,000. You have to be married. You don't have to be married. You have to have a spouse with you, and you have to be ready to go to take this to the next level. This isn't info gathering session. You can see in the link below what you're going to get within this program. It's going to be life changing. I already know that. We have 1,600 people. It's the best program it's literally the best financial program in the world, bar none. Assuming that's the case, assuming that you're ready to take it to the next level, book your call with my team right now. Pause this video and go down below, because this will change your life. And this is a very small subset of what you're about to get in the academy. This might be 10% of the entire academy type stuff. Like, it's really in depth. So this is very, very high level stuff. But let's say we come to the conclusion that we have an extra 2,870. If I just put 2,870 right here, and I see what it does down below, as I warned you, it automates for you. You don't have to make the decisions for yourself. It says, I will pay off my debt by month 15. All these are crossed out below, meaning they're all paid off. So by month 15, I pay off my debt. Wow, that is incredible. So not only did I just do it the right way, I set up the foundation so I can do this for other things, because once this debt is paid off, guess how much money I have? $2,870 plus an extra $534, because that minimum payment's done. I now have $3,400 once this debt's paid off. So now the question is, do I want to pay off this $50,000 student loan debt within 15 months or 120 months, as we initially anticipated? That is a decision that you're going to have to make. And again, my students will walk through a framework to make the educated right decision for them, going about this the right way. But let's just say 2,870, you're like, man, 15 months is fast. Like, I don't know if I need to do it that fast. I also have investing goals. I have savings goals. I want to get a car. I want to invest on my, do all these other things. So I can't really allocate all of this money to just my debt payoff, but it's pretty dang good. 2,870 pays us off in 15 months. Is it worth it? What if you go lesser? What if you just do $2,000 a month? Well, I can see exactly how this changes my situation. So instead of $2,870 taking 15 months, I take $2,000 and I pay this off in 20 months. So it's adding 5 months back onto the picture. But I have $870 throughout 20 months that I can apply elsewhere that might be applicable to other goals that I have. Now I can plug and play whatever I want to do, because I have the right tools, I have the right decision-making power, I have the right frameworks, obviously, within Budgetdog Academy, and I know how to make decisions for myself, because now I actually have facts. I have data. I don't have to guess emotionally about, oh my God, my student loan's never going to be paid off. I hope the government forgives it. I don't have to play that game, because I know a lot of people play that game because they come to me in my DMs all the time. I can now control the life I want to live. Let's say I take this to $1,500. Boom, I go down to the bottom. Now it's going to go to 26 months. Is 26 months doable for you? Is that what you want? Maybe I want to bump it up to 24 months so I can just plug and play. Again, maybe 1550 gets me there. I don't know. I'm just making numbers up. Yep, pretty close. Let's do 1600. I bet 1600 gets me there. Takes me to exactly 24 months. And so 24 months, if I pay an extra 1600, when I have 2870 available, that gives me an extra decent chunk here, right? So if I take 2870 minus 1600, I have $1,270 remaining that I can apply elsewhere. And if I go back to my cash flow goal worksheet, which will all be listed out by monthly amounts, you can then plug and play that amount. So if you, instead of starting with 322, you would start in this situation with whatever you apply to your first goal, which is your debt payoff. If it's all of your money, that's totally fine. You just know for the first 15 months with the 2870 applied to your debt, you're not going to hit your other goals, or you're not going to start your other goals. Sometimes it actually makes sense from a strategic standpoint, depending on the numbers and the math and the goals that you have. It, again, depends, and that's why I work with students to make sure this works. But down here, it would tell you, are you on pace or off pace? It's going to sum up all your goals. What's the total cash cash that's applicable to hitting these goals? And then it tells you what's remaining. So it's taking your 2870 up here, subtracting out the 2565, gives you the remaining, and says either great job or hey, you need some work. So let's say I do $400 a fourth goal. Boom, you're close, but let's rework the plan to ensure you have enough cash flow for everything. So it's going to shoot you out the actual answer. Now, why do I have this annualized goal for budget template over here? Because when I look at this and it annualizes it, I know my budget template needs to be updated. What did I tell you about automation? So I'm going to take these amounts, copy and paste them, literally, go into my budget and go over here into my savings and investment portion, which again shows up right here, the 2870. And again, I've overwritten this, so it's not going to show up exactly now because it is linked to everything besides here. So I go into here and I say, okay, here are my 3 goals. I listed, let's do Control V. There we go. Here's our 3 goals. And I have them all listed. Now they turn to 0%. And let's say the first goal was my taxable brokerage account. My second goal was, I believe, the car sinking fund that we had. And my third goal was the Roth IRA, or more so just let's call it retirement. So retirement in total was just the general on the cash flow goal worksheet a second ago, template that we used right here, rental property, car sinking fund, retirement. These are the various accounts we're holding them in. So taxable brokerage, high yield savings account, and Roth IRA are the accounts that we're using. I go into my personal budget template. I see those 3. They all go down here. Taxable, as you can see, these automatically updated. They start with the 0% goal. And I know annualized is this amount. So therefore, on a monthly basis, if I go back to my cash flow goal template, I know it's 322, 643, and 1600. Copy and paste those. I go over into my budget. Super simple. I then set the stage and set the foundation. Boom. There we go. There's the answer right there, guys. And so as you can see down here, they're all 8% to completion because I filled in January. And if I fill in February, for example, it's going to go to 17%. And then March, 25%. It goes on and on and on. You get my point. And so now, because I have these all set and I know exactly what I want and the cash flow goal worksheet's updated, I've decided I've went through the exercises to get to those conclusions. I've used my framework through Budgetdog Academy. I've worked with my coaches within Budgetdog Academy. I know kind of where I'm headed and what I want to do. And I set my budget the way I set it. Now all I got to do is go into my taxable brokerage, automate this 322, go to my car sinking fund, a high yield savings account, maybe Ally Savings, go to 643 and automate that process. Go into my IRA, my 401ks and stuff, and distribute my $1,600 accordingly. I automate this entire process and this plays out. And as long as I just play to the timeline that it shows right here on your cash flow goal worksheet that's already predetermined, based on a specific set of assumptions, you will do it in that time frame. Now, here's the catch. When you set this up, when you do everything the right way, most people begin to get competitive with themselves. They see that this is going to take 65 months, their brokerage account, their rental property. I want to do that in 50 months. And every time it works. And the reason my students pay off things so much quicker is because they have a very logical game plan of how to do everything. And now, assuming their income stays the same and their expenses stay the same, they'll hit it. There's nothing else to it. They could literally go hang out on a beach and do nothing, and their financial goals are going to be hit. What if they don't? What if they get really creative and say, well, I'm going to go make some side hustle income this weekend, and that extra $200 is going to go straight to my debt, and it's going to speed up the process. They do that all the time. My wife and I did that. My students do that. 1,600 people and counting, 1,600 families and counting have done this. The reason we get the results we get is because we do the basics very, very well at a high level. And so when you see the Student Academy results, I can even show literally what this looks like. If I go to Community Wins and I type in maybe debt, I don't know. Well, the first one pops up. $13,000 of credit card paid off, $8,000 401k loan, $8,500 personal loan, $2K medical debt. You get my point. Paid off student loan debt free. Debt payoff, $230,000 in 8 months. Please put some respect on the name. You can go down this list, and there's literally 81. If you want to go through all 81 pages of student testimonials of being officially debt free, like Hannah and Jeanette and Carla and Taylor and Mariska, you can absolutely do so. Be my guest. My point is, this shows up 806 times. We have the formula. I know exactly what to do. And the reason my students get the results is because they go about it the right way. Back to the initial question of how to pay off your debt the quickest and what's your opinion on velocity banking. I would never touch velocity banking with a 10-foot pole. It's a trash way to pay off debt, in short. And Alan, I hope you don't use that. And I hope you take the right approach. You book a call with our team in the show notes below. You change your financial life forever. You get off TikTok watching velocity banking videos, and we become best friends, Alan. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you guys next week.